the logic of the lower brain is safety equals survival. So keep everything the same. So we've got it wired into us biologically, and it's not that conscious for most people to not change. Hey, I'm Craig Polfus, and you're entering a world gone good.
Well, hello, my name's Steve, and this is the place where we shine the light on everyday people making good happen each and every day. Welcome to World Gone Good. Hey, have you given this good little show we have right here your own rating and review? We sure would love to hear your good thoughts. Take a moment now while you're listening to rate and review us. And hey, while you're at it, give us a share, why don't you? You know someone who could probably use a good pick-me-up. Come on, I know you know at least one person. Share our show with them. Share our show with everyone. And for doing any and all of these good things, from rating us to reviewing us to sharing us, we say, as always, thank you. Well, I gotta tell you, one of the best things about doing this show is meeting so many incredible people who truly are shining their good light into the world. And today is no exception. In fact, today might just be one of my favorite conversations I have ever gotten to share with you. I'm all about change. You know this. I bring it up here way too often. I love change. I love to move forward, to grow, to evolve. I take swings in my life that to some people are so big, and to me are just me giving it a whirl, seeing what happens, because we never know unless we try. When I direct my plays and an actor suggests something, I say, okay, let's try that. And sometimes they're really surprised because they were either ready for me to shoot the idea down right away, or they were prepared to fight for it. But I just say, okay, let's try it. Let's see. Because if we don't, at the very least, try things, how will we ever grow, evolve, and change? My guest today believes we can change in an instant. Craig Polfus is a pioneering psychologist and author. His book, Reality Shattering Insights, brings a new understanding to instant personal transformation and enlightenment. And it's not just something he professes and teaches, it's something he's actually lived himself. If you're feeling stuck right now, if you have an idea that you aren't sure, if you're ready to try, if you're thinking about making a change, no matter how big or small it is, this one right here, this one's for you. Here comes Craig Polfus, psychologist and author, to bring us some good. Okay, so we start today where we started our conversation before I pressed the record button. There's an extra letter in your last name, mister. So explain.
Well,
there's a silent S in your name.
Americanized, my last name is Polfus, but it's a German name, and it was originally Pulsfuss, and Fuss means foot in German, and there's a story behind the pulse part, and we don't need to get into that. So you can call me Craig Polfus or Pulsfuss, either way.
And you are clarifying that because you are an author, and you want people to buy your book, which is called Reality Shattering Insights, and you want them to get the spelling correct. Is that correct?
Correct. Or just put that title in Amazon, it'll pop up.
Perfect. You are, well, you're a lot of things, my friend. You are a psychospiritual, insightful person who works with brain science. Do you see yourself as a nerd? Were you a nerd growing up? Is that a word you identify with? Or do you see yourself as an intelligent person, and that I just called you a nerd is an insulting thing?
Not quite either. No, I would never thought of myself as a nerd, and that's not insulting to me. I We need nerds. I'm just not one of them. I am a licensed psychologist, and I have been for over 4 decades. But I've been a part of a breakthrough in the field that it really opens up an understanding of the spiritual dimension of the psyche. So that's where the psycho-spiritual comes in.
That's so interesting because you were probably trained and schooled in science, but there's another piece to it that you embraced.
Yes. And that really gets back to why I wrote the book, because it's based on my own experience that at the age of 28, shortly after I was actually licensed as a psychologist, I had my own personal awakening that completely answered so many questions and changed my life. At our core, we're all the same. Our outer details are different and we're unique human beings, but that life force and intelligence in us is the same. And the more we can realize and then wake up into that and live in that, well, we're more fulfilled, effective human beings. Doesn't mean it's going to be super easy. Like you get rid of any challenge in your life, but you just find more and more perspective and grace to go through everything and make the best of it.
Can I ask you, will you share what that experience was for you? Are you comfortable sharing it?
Yes. I stopped there and because I don't want to just give a canned response like, well, I've described it this way in the past. And I want it to be fresh in this moment, because actually in each moment, whether we know it or not, we are continuing to awaken and evolve. Maybe just don't know it. My two greatest teachers, both in their own way, say to people, you're enlightened, but you just don't know it. For me, that awakening was a tipping point. There's an instant, a moment, through sufficient insight into the truth of reality and of who we really are, where one of my teachers says, your mental health is one thought away. Some of us have probably experienced degrees of that. So we realize, oh my gosh, I don't have to define myself as an alcoholic my whole life. And I can actually be recovered instead of recovering forever. And then they kind of wake up into a whole new perspective and energy and joy in living. And of course, there's a fundamental desire to serve. And it's not that everyone who awakens goes into a formal service profession, but they'll have that heart of a servant and live in that way because it's out of gratitude. The universal psycho-spiritual powers we have, and the more we recognize them and understand how they operate, it's like we can learn to get out of the way and trust them and let them work for us, and our lives transform and get better and better and better and better forever. But there's one more radical shift that can happen, and that's what happened to me when I was 28, and that's what I talk about in book 3. And that's that we can not only go into a process of unending awakening to a new level and a new level, and you realize that source, that formless source, intelligence, power of life, of the universe, is infinite. We can not only just reflect and awaken with more and more insight, but we can actually invert our consciousness back to that source inside of us. When I heard that possibility in my life, in my mid 20s, early 20s, I was just captivated by it. And as I explored it more and more, I was going down that path to where then in an instant, everything changed. Although you could say, well, Craig, it really wasn't in an instant. It took you a while to get to it. Well, that's equally true. So I became one of the first probably 25 psychologists in the world who knew about this and understood and began to embrace it and be part of those of us who are now bringing this more and more into the world, into the professions. I was also a clinical social worker for many, many years, which I'm not licensed in anymore, but I am in psychology. So I'm kind of giving you a lot of information there.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great. There's a base here, and the base in some way is the word change.
Yes.
And to make a change, we have to let go of something or move forward from something or advance from something. But so many of us, as we see around the world, and there's so many examples, right? There's climate change, there's political, but it's based on if we're going to advance, we have to make a change. But making the change means letting go of some of those beliefs because something new is going to come my way and advance me. So my question is, why do so many people have a problem with letting go, with making that, I understand it, the build to that instant transformation, it's not instant, but why are so many people afraid of letting go to make the change?
I'll answer that in a couple ways. One is a more, this will bring in my brain science education and experience. You could say we have three brains in our head. And some of your listeners probably know there's other models who talk about, well, there's a brain in the heart and there's a brain in the gut. Yes, I'm not talking about that. In our heads, there are three brains that either were emerged in form in a human being all at once and went online sequentially, or they evolved and were layered over each other. And the first one, we could call it the lower brain. A lot of people know of it as the reptilian brain, was all about physical survival and physical, procreation. So sex and survival, because this human consciousness woke up in a physical world and it was surrounded by predators. And so it was very smart to I got to keep my body safe and fed and procreating, right? To be in this world. And it's just very self-survival centered, but we're not made to live that way. We're not just animals waking up in a physical world. We're divine beings, actually. So we had to evolve beyond that. The next layer of the brain has more to do with community, connections with others, cooperation, and the rational mind, and being able to analyze. And that dramatically helped us survive. And then the higher brain is about seeing more clearly the true nature of how this all works. And that's where the spiritual awareness and experiences open up. So the logic of the lower brain is safety equals survival. So keep everything the same. So we've got it wired into us biologically, and it's not that conscious for most people, to not change, to resist change because it's a threat. But as we get more of the brain wired in and awake, when you wake up in the higher brain, you realize life is all about change. Yes, I need to survive physically, and then there's rational aspects of survival beyond the rational, not irrational, but non-rational understanding of what life is and that it's actually on your side. And you implied that when you said we need to change and then something better will come along. And when you begin to see and feel the gift and the grace and everything and the super intelligence that life is on our side, something really it's not just a belief. You begin to actually see and experience it. Something deep inside begins to relax and allow. And now we move more into what some psychologists and I use the term flow state. And we can be in the flow state more and more in our lives. And of course, then that enhances our lives on many, many levels. So I'm going to quick jump to the other answer that was coming to me. There's basically two fundamental psychological paradigms that human beings have available and are living in. And most of us appear to be living in the one that I would call outside in. And it's understandable because the lower the brain we're functioning from and looking out into our world, it looks like there's a world out there and that it has a power over us, and we have to be careful and protect ourselves. And not only that it's kind of got the ultimate power in a way, that what's on the outside makes us experience what it does. So the rush hour traffic is what stresses me out. and the politics of the day stress me out, and the sunshine on the beach makes me feel good, and I'm a powerless victim, or I maybe have a tiny bit of power to kind of do something with that. But when we take a deeper look, it's not true. This is the part that many of your listeners probably may have heard that, comes out of the East, especially, that, oh, it's all an illusion. And that doesn't mean doesn't have a reality, but it's not, illusion means it's not what it appears to be. So we're now awake. Life is there's an inside out paradigm, meaning, oh, what I think I'm experiencing right in front of me, there's not a one-to-one correlation between my state of mind inside and what I appear to be experiencing. Because when we step back, let's use the example of stress and traffic. When we step back, we might start noticing flaws in our belief. Like, oh, wait a minute, I just went through rush hour traffic and I wasn't stressed at all. How can that be? Or we're getting all stressed and suddenly it occurs to us, actually, I'm glad I'm in the rush hour traffic. Now I've got a legitimate excuse to not go to that meeting I didn't want to go to. And we start to realize, wait a minute, my experience is coming from the inside out via my own mind and thinking that I may or may not be aware of. It's maybe invisible thinking to me. But this is profound because it means, wait a minute, we're not victims. We're creators of our experience. So how aware are we, and how can we, quote unquote, use that power that's being given to us in each moment to have a wonderful experience and fulfill who we really are at our full potential? How can we get out of the way and let that insight come in moment to moment? And when we do, it feels good. It doesn't mean we don't have rush hour traffic, and it doesn't mean we don't stub our toe or whatever happens out there, but our ability to engage it with perspective and grace and effectiveness and resilience just goes up and up and up and up.
And that's perspective, right? That's our perspective, and that's our choice.
Yes, and that's super powerful what you said there, because the more we're convinced about the outside in paradigm, we believe more and more and more, no, I don't have a choice. I don't have power. But that's not true. In every moment, we can choose, we'll put it this way, where we put our attention. And we begin to realize, wait a minute, where I put my attention is like an Aladdin's lamp. Where I put my attention brings whatever I'm putting my attention on into my experience. And in a way, the further I go, it becomes my reality. Right now, I'm putting my attention on listening to you, speaking to you, sharing what's coming to me spontaneously from my authentic self right now. And so this all feels very real to me. If I started thinking about, God, when this is going to be over, I'm going to have lunch. What am I going to have? My whole experience with you would start to fade, wouldn't it? And I wouldn't be able to flow with it and be engaged in it as much. So it's like, wait a minute, where I put my attention, which is my choice. Now, I'm not always very conscious about it, but I've got a feedback mechanism, and it's got two sides to it. One side is, how do I feel? How does it feel right now, even to you and your audience? How does it feel to listen to this kind of conversation? Some people are going to be going, oh, God, I love this. This is so interesting. And some people might be going, this is psychological BS. Well, they're both right for whoever the person is. So don't waste, if you're not speaking to you, don't waste your time. But if it is, oh my gosh, what kind of a gift, what kind of an insight could come out of this that could shatter your reality in a good way, right? So where we put our attention, we have two feedbacks. One is how it feels, and the other is, what does it produce in our life? Suddenly I have rush hour, but it doesn't bother me anymore. Oh my gosh. My reality just changed, and I might think of it that way. Like, I've had couples come in and see me who really didn't think they'd survive because there had been infidelity, and they completely change and love each other more than they ever had. And just to them, it was a miracle. And I didn't do that. See, I just helped them understand who they are and how their mind and consciousness and thinking works. And then they saw their way to that because they wanted to go there. In their heart, they wanted their attention and their reality to be there. Does that make sense, I hope?
It makes a lot of sense. And I can give this example. I last month, I lost 2 of my 3 dogs in 2 weeks.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. One died very unexpectedly. She was perfectly healthy, and then she wasn't. She had a mass on her spleen. It ruptured. We had no idea. Turned out she had masses on her liver. She had spots on her lungs. She had full-on cancer. This dog never showed a sign of it. She was a big 80-pound happy lab husky, and then she wasn't. She was gone in about 6 hours.
Wow.
And the brain process of that was so difficult, and it's still difficult. And the feelings mixed with the, okay, I'm going to apply my intellectual understanding of what happened with how I feel about myself, what happened, all these things, right? And why didn't I see it? And how did I not see it? And all those things. And then 2 weeks later, I have 2 other older dogs, and it was his time, and we had to let him go. I mean, it was just time. He couldn't walk anymore. It was just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But to lose 2 at once and have had them so long in our lives. And I fell into this place that I've fallen into before in my life when my dad died, when another dog of mine died, where I allowed myself to feel that way. And I understood that the only way to not get through it, but to process it. And when I say get through it, I mean like to walk through it. And so I feel like I've been a different person for several weeks now, but I'm allowing myself to be that person.
And would you say that different person, in a way, you were somehow, it may seem illogical, by the death of these 2 beloved dogs, you received a gift? How could you receive a gift through their death? But you did, in a way. Is it like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's also understanding that, like, I got 13 fantastic years with Mason. I had 7 years with Haley. And I understand that there's a cycle, and I understand that their cycle as dogs, as animals, as pets, much shorter than our cycle. And it's a very strange feeling, but to allow myself to feel. And I bring that up because, and I want your perspective on this because we've already hit on a little bit, which is you can't always put an explanation to why you feel. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you're just, not you, me. Sometimes I just get angry. Sometimes I'm just depressed. Sometimes I'm super happy. But like you said, it may not translate to someone listening right now who's like, well, what the hell is he so mad about? What the hell is he so happy about? But it's that thing of allowing ourselves to feel, allowing ourselves to change, allowing ourselves to have the moments. And I'm a writer myself, and that's very important to me, is that the things that I write have the moments in them to connect to. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on all of that. That's a lot, I know.
I want to comment on 2 things. One is your talking about allowing. I think one of the great lessons of human living, and then we have all our particular examples like you are sharing right now with your dogs, that we start to realize our true and best position, quote unquote, in life is to be a receiver of life and all that it has. With the more we're in our survival modes or rational modes, we're skeptical or we resist that because it's like, I just can't bear accepting my beloved dog's died, or my wife or my husband or my whoever. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Your example was so good in that as you allow for something, whether you were very conscious of it or not, your wisdom told you, go ahead and feel this. Go ahead and feel it and accept it and receive the information in it. And when we receive it, we end up coming out the other side into a fresh new moment where we feel even more blessed to be alive and to have had the gifts we have in our life. And we can kind of stop and go, oh my God, it's still happening. It's still happening. I'm still even the gift of the next breath. How priceless is that? We can't make that happen. And when we become aware that out of nothing, a new breath comes in and it gives us everything. And then we get to, with our free will, go do whatever we want with it. Well, we don't realize that. And the more we realize that, we're going to just feel like every breath is a gift. Every breath is grace. And imagine feeling that, being more and more awake to that. And then, yep, the rush hour happens. And yep, my car gets dented. And yep, oh, we don't have enough money for that. And oh, okay, that's all still there. But we're coming from a perspective of gratitude and clarity and what you might call, or sometimes we call, a very high level of consciousness or perspective. So that whole thing about, oh, be still, let your mind quiet down, come into the moment and feel what you feel as best you can without judgment. Most of us might have fearful, busy habits in our mind of, oh, but this bad thing could come or that bad thing, or we wouldn't get the bills paid earlier. And it's like, you get more clear. Oh, that's what I'm thinking. That was the second thing that I wanted to speak to is like, why am I thinking that, or why am I feeling this? And it starts to become, oh, so that's what I was thinking. Oh, I guess I'm thinking fear right now. I'm thinking anger right now. And it's just a neutral fact. It's not judge. If it's judgmental, you've added a thought of judgment on top of it. It's just like, oh, it is what it is, and I've overlaid it with this. And if it's important to me to figure out, well, why would I get angry about this? You can think about it, but it usually becomes less and less and less important. It's just like, oh, okay, well, your wisdom kind of says, it doesn't matter. Just accept it. Just feel it. Just go through it. Receive more of what's coming to you right now.
It's very powerful. It's very powerful. And it's a shift. It's a shift that some people can make. It's a shift that some people don't make because they felt that way their whole lives. From my perspective, I'm a person who, I see this podcast is the perfect example. I was out for a run one day. It was August 2020. I ran out of breath. I was so frustrated of where the world was. We were in the middle of the lockdown. We were just hearing about the first vaccines. And I'm scrolling around, walking. I'm not even running because I can't catch my breath. Can't find my breath, my pace. And I'm going through podcasts. And I finally just said, why can't someone just give me something good? Why can't I find anything good? And literally, like, you talk about instant moment.
Yep.
I said, I'll do it. I just said, I'll do it. And I went home and I said, I know how to edit. I'm relatively intelligent. I started calling friends, texting friends. Will you do a test show with me? Will you do a test show with me? I did 18 test shows. I put them all up, but I wanted to figure it all out. And I just had this instant moment of like, well, if I want this, then I will make it happen. And that's how my brain has always worked. So question is, what are steps for people listening right now who are struggling to start writing that book, to go to the gym, to leave that job they hate, to get out of the relationship they're in, or to start the relationship that they're in that they're looking for? What are those steps that you can recommend?
That's a super good question. And I feel like giving you the short answer I'm going to give you is not fair in a way because there's so much to it. But I will say this. And I don't want people to believe what I'm about to say. I say this in my book a lot. Like, please don't think I'm asking you to believe this. Just consider it and see for yourself. Since the moment of birth, we're engineered to find and live in a beautiful feeling. That's always influencing us and where we're trying to put our attention and what the thinking that goes along with that. So if we realize, oh, I'm just looking for a beautiful feeling, that helps me jump to it more quickly. Like, oh, right now I'm thinking the thought that I'm an unlucky person, and that just perpetuates my suffering. I don't have to think that. It makes sense that I concluded that before when I thought my luck has to do with what happens to me, my feeling of being lucky. But it's like, no, my feeling of being lucky has to do with how I put it together in my head. Oh my gosh, I'm not who I thought I was. I was the one thinking that up. Just because I feel it doesn't mean it's real.
That is what is so powerful about our human mind, in that we can see it in our head and believe it, and our brain believes it is so.
Right.
And then it can become so because it comes to us and or we find it. Keep going. I'm not a psychologist. What the hell do I know? Keep going.
Deep down you are. We are. All of us are in a way. So the question keeps getting amped up like, oh, what do I really want? Who am I really? Who is it behind my thinking that's thinking? What is this reality that has all this stuff going on in the worldly side, but then there's this invisible side. And this is part of my work to help people kind of see the invisible, which sounds funny, but that there's a whole dimension of life that's way bigger and more powerful, that's invisible, but real. And as we wake up to that, like, oh, so who am I really? And why would I even ask that? Because I want to find that just right, perfect feeling now and now and now. And when I do, I can breathe. I can enjoy, I can appreciate, and I can go through whatever's to come, and I can have a say in what I go through. I can turn right or left. I can study this subject or this career or not, and I can go through this and awaken more into who I really am. And it's not just fulfill myself in a narcissistic way. It's in a way that is giving to others and all of it, even if that means, oh, my way of giving to the world is to be the best mom I can be, raising these kids. So to kind of try to get back to give you a simple answer to the question, you're looking for a feeling. You innocently are looking for it in the world and the outside, which means you're looking for it in your thinking. The only reason you're looking for it is you're not feeling it. Why? It must be in you. It must already be in you. It is. That's why all the great teachers, saints, whatever, say, go within. Turn around and look back inside. What the heck does that mean? Well, that's what I talk about in my books. No one can make anybody see, but they can give enough clues that when we're ready, we'll see for ourselves. The book will become a mirror, and we'll be able to look back in, like the way you're responding in this session. Like I'll say things and share them, and you'll go, oh, yes. And so something's resonating in you because of your interest, your sincerity, and the way you're listening to this. Ooh, there's a feeling to that, isn't there? Ooh, I like that feeling. I feel more alive. I feel more energized. I feel at the same time kind of calmed, and more meaning and more of a direction is coming into my life just right here in this consciousness, this feeling, this energy, this conversation. I'm trying to describe something I think we're all made to live in, that we want to live in, and it's right in front of us. It's right here. We just don't see it until we see it. And we might see it a little bit and a little bit. And the good news, human beings are this way. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can forget it for a while, but it's in there influencing you. And we keep coming back more and more. This is the evolutionary part of us that we're made to evolve and awaken. And so it can happen little by little, or there can be those threshold or breakthrough moments where one little insight and all of a sudden you completely change. And I could go on and on and on, you see, and part of that is not only the joy in me of sharing this, but I couldn't do it if you weren't sincere, Steve, and listening. And this might sound weird, in a sense, I feel your audience's sincerity and interest too. And that pulls it out of me. And I get to kind of discover it as we sit here sharing this way.
It's really is amazing. And even though like we're having a conversation and someone is listening somewhere right now and they are at the gym, they are on a walk, they're cleaning the house, they're making dinner, or maybe they're just sitting and actively listening, passively listening, we are connecting. And it's one of the most joyous, fun things, exciting things I get to do with this podcast for over 200 episodes is meet all these people, and people come to me and I go out to people and I say, let's have a conversation. And it's that connectivity. And this is the final thing I'm going to ask you regarding that connectivity. And then we'll wrap up this whole show. And I know the answer, but I want your perspective on it because there is someone out there listening who is wondering this. Is it too late for me? Is it too late for me to make that connection?
Never. This is the inside out, my turning inside out. And this might sound wonderful or strange to people. You already have the connection. You're already there. You're just in the habit of being distracted from it. And that's been a choice that maybe you innocently made. So you have, all the great seers of the world have said, what you're looking for is inside of you. And that isn't just, the peace and the joy is inside of you. Yes. The fulfillment. Yes. But if we had more time together, and my books address some of this, literally everything, because you begin to realize, well, wait a minute, what's real? If it's all a thought projection, a hologram I've been living in, and I've felt like it's real because I thought it was real. And the more I start to realize, well, it's an appearance. And what I feel is shaped by my thinking. Now I go reflectively deeper and deeper inside and see that, and I'm going to contradict myself here for a second, that it's on the one hand, wouldn't it be wonderful to realize that, I've always had it. I knew this. I just forgot. And it's great to remember. So on the one hand, there's that. Here's the part that might sound contradictory. And I really felt this when I was coming to my awakening. I saw and felt enough of the truth of it that I knew I was made for this awakening. And the more I knew it, the more it was wonderful, but it was also kind of agonizing in the sense of, God, I really, really want this, and it hasn't happened yet. And I knew, or the thought that really got me was, I'm going to keep going in this direction, but what if it takes multiple lifetimes? What if it literally occurred to me, what if it takes 100,000 human lifetimes of suffering before I realize this? And it's like, wow. And that's when someone crossed my path that said, you know what? I've got a way to put you directly in touch with what you're looking for. And and I'll show you for free. You don't even have to believe me. Just do it and you see for yourself. And I went, how can I pass that up? And that's what made the final click for me. Like, and one of the big motivators there was, I didn't want to, if I had to, I was willing to go however long lifetimes, whatever it was. And I didn't even necessarily believe in reincarnation, but I want it now. So I can see how if somebody's going, God, is it too late for me? No, it's not, but don't waste a moment. Don't waste a moment. Don't waste a breath, because I'll just share this from my personal life. About 3 weeks ago, my wife almost died. She had a heart incident and now this is the shortest story, that then she got a procedure done on her heart. And the doctor said, 1% of people who have this heart condition that you have what you just experienced, and most of them die. And he said, somebody's looking out for you. And she said, yeah, I know, it's God. She's a devout Christian. So it's not too late, but don't waste a moment. So if something's getting sparked in a listener of yours right now, I'd say really the first step of feel it yourself and see what comes up inside of you, like a new direction or interest. But I would hope that just get my book and read it. And it's there to help you take the next step and the next step. And then when I publish my other 3 books, they're in process still. Hopefully those will just help you walk right into what you're looking for.
Okay, perfect segue. Where do we get the book? Plug away.
So it's on Amazon. Just, you've got the correct spelling of my name, and the name of the book is Reality Shattering Insights. Just put it in Amazon. It'll pop right up. I really appreciate it. If you like it, leave a review, tell others, of course. And I want to sell a lot of books, but it's really about helping others remember who they really are and what a miracle life is. And not just because we all adopt the belief, isn't life a miracle? That's okay. But honestly, oh my God, it is a miracle. You're really seeing it and feeling it then.
The last 2 questions are easy. You know the answers. Question number 1, how we end the show, is this. Who inspires you?
I'll give you 2 names. So my 3rd book speaks about that ability to fully invert and go right back to this, where your consciousness is coming from inside of you. And you can call that source or God or whatever you call that. Doesn't matter. It is what it is. The person who I give credit for educating me and inspiring me and showing me the most about that is a man named Prem Rawat, Premrawat. He has an international bestseller called Hear Yourself, Finding Peace in a Noisy World. And you can find him online, and he's one. The other is a man named Sydney Banks. He's passed away, but he was the welder who, out of the blue, woke up and just, that would be a fascinating story to discuss sometime. But, and he wrote, I'd recommend a book of his called The Enlightened Gardener by Sydney Banks. And it's a fictitious story about a gardener. But in that story, which is based on his true life experience, he shares these 3 most powerful insights or principles and introduces them to the reader. And there have been people whose lives have changed just reading that book.
The final question is not a question. It is a way we close the show. You can answer it any way you want. Just finish the sentence. Anything you want to tell us that we've already discussed or anything you want to say goes like this. Tell me something good.
You're alive. Understand what that means. Not just figure out in your mind a description or a fascinating concept or belief. Find out what it really means to be alive on a feeling level, on a deep, the deepest heart level.
Thank you, Craig, for sharing your good. Next time on World Gone Good.
It's easy to feel that people have gotten to the point where they're just so self-absorbed or involved in their own world and consumed in their phones or digital devices, etc., and not feeling connected to others or not caring about others. I don't think that that's the case. I think a lot of people are seeking genuine connection with others and care about creating connections now even more than ever. I think there's starting to become a little bit more of a paradigm shift there.
Sean Devlin is the creator of Nice News. It's news, yeah, but only the nice stuff. Nice News sends a daily digest right to your inbox each and every morning, featuring only positive news stories. Their goal is for you to start your day inspired with an optimistic mindset. How nice does that sound? And how much in common does the guy from Nice News and the guy from World Gone Good have? You're going to find out on our next all-new episode. Until then, be good.